Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be going over my luxury makeup collection. Arguably, there are probably some brands in here that aren't necessarily considered luxury, and I would say that some of the price points on some of these brands that I would consider luxury are relatively similar to high-end brands pricing these days. So it's a little bit hard for me to determine kind of what's luxury and what isn't, I think, because even some that may not be like considered luxury in the US are definitely considered luxury in, like, I think Spain and Europe in terms of clearance. So here is all of my primers, concealers, and foundations. It's a smaller collection than I have in high-end and drugstore. I recently did my whole drugstore makeup collection, so if you guys are interested in that, I will link it up in the cards, but you can also check out my playlist on my channel. I posted those very recently, and I thought it might be fun to also do a luxury makeup collection and a high-end makeup collection. So if you guys are interested in seeing a high-end makeup collection, I feel like that's such a big category, maybe that'd be kind of a hard video to post, but I don't know. If you guys are interested, please let me know in the comments below. So primers, foundations, and concealers. I'll start with primers. I only have 3. I'm not a big primer user, so because of that reason, I typically will usually grab for drugstore, but I'm a big fan of Dior base products, so I did pick up the Forever Glow Veil. This doesn't have like glitters in it or anything, but I do want to say that it has like pearls in it. It's definitely like this very luminous kind of pearlescent product. But yeah, you can't see any of that like really on your skin. It's just a natural glow. Aside from being hydrating and nice and a lightweight formula that's kind of glowy, it's not a primer that really does anything else. It does have a pretty strong fragrance to it, so if you're not into a fragrance product, a lot of luxury products do, but if you're not into that, this might not be something that you'd want to pick up. I have one here from Bobbi Brown, and I did include Bobbi Brown in this video simply because a lot of the prices are kind of on the high end. This one is the Vitamin Riched Face Base. This was just like a mini. I'm almost done with it. I do like it, and I actually think I might repurchase it. It's nice just to have up in your everyday makeup drawer. If I forget to like moisturize or something, which almost never happens, but sometimes it does, I will reach for this as a primer. I just think for that reason it's nice. The scent is like almost green tea. Something like that, something along those lines. I know this is a really popular product, but I think for good reason. It's kind of a luxurious, lightweight but hydrating formula. I want to pan this, like I want to finish it for sure. I will probably do it in the next couple of months. It feels like it wouldn't take that long, but goodness gracious, it does. So there is that one. I have one from Hourglass, and I did decide to put Hourglass in here because, you know, there's those face palettes are like nearly $100. Hourglass is definitely pricey. This is their primer serum, the number 28 primer serum. This is very similar to the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip, but this one has a much stronger like scent to it. It's like green tea almost, but it's a super sticky serum primer. So it's like a grippy primer. It's kind of hydrating though. It's like more hydrating than the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip, for example. And it's an oilier texture. Like I feel like it definitely has some oils in it. It's nice. Like I said, it's highly scented. It is a nice kind of grippy primer that's also hydrating. Let's move on into foundations, skin tint, and moisturizers. I have 2 from Dior. This is the original version of the Dior Backstage Face and Body foundation. I prefer this formula over the new reformulated version because this is a matte finish. It's super lightweight, it's skin perfecting, it's a pretty long lasting formula. Like I want to say it has about a 6-hour wear time, but it wears off like perfectly, evenly, all that good stuff, never breaks apart. I don't think it would because it's just this really lightweight formula. It was just like beautifully satin matte. So they did reformulate it into a dewy version, which I'm not as big of a fan of, but I do like Dior base products usually quite a bit. So I did want to test out the reformulated version. I almost even feel like the texture got heavier for whatever reason. Like the consistency is just heavier than the original matte version. It has a similar longevity to the matte version. This is just a dewy finish, and I think they call it like the natural radiant finish or something like that. I would have liked to see Dior come out with, instead of reformulating, a dewy version in addition to the matte finish, because I feel like a lot of us, especially in my dedicated video in the comments, people were saying like that was this one was their tried and true, and the matte worked for their skin type. I just kind of feel like they did themselves an injustice kind of changing the finish. I have one from Bobbi Brown. This is the Skin Long Wear Weightless Foundation with SPF of 15. It's supposed to be full coverage, oil-free shine control. I used to use this back when I had really dry skin and I liked it. The only thing is it does sink into my fine lines, but it's such a nice skin-like satin finish foundation. I'd like to see what it would do now that my skin is a little bit more combo. I have recommended this foundation to other people in the past that I've worked with, even like dry skin types, just because I thought this was such a beautiful foundation. I have one here from Shiseido. This is the Synchro Skin Radiant Lifting Foundation. This one has SPF of 30. They do have a different non-radiant finish foundation. I see a lot of people with dry skin say that they really enjoy this foundation, but it actually kind of broke apart on my face. It sits kind of funny on me. It doesn't look super flattering. There are some textures or some consistencies of foundations that just don't like sink into my pores properly, and so they tend to sit on top of my skin and kind of break apart. This one did that. I haven't reached for it though since I've turned more combo, so I'd like to see what it would do, but it was kind of a letdown. It's such a high price point, and I had my eye on this for so long because so many people said it was their holy grail. It didn't work for me, and that kind of sucked. Another one that didn't work for me that I was bummed out about was the Forever Skin Glow from Dior. Guys, I'm not even telling you the shades in these, and I tend to do that. So if you guys ever have any questions, just let me know in the comments or ask in the comments. These are in 1.5N. The Bobbi Brown one is in Ivory C024, and then the Shiseido is in 160 Shell. My foundations jump all over the place. I find that I can get away with like a lot of different shades, so you'll see that a lot. So back to the Forever Skin Glow from Dior. This is again in 1.5N. This was very similar to the Shiseido in that it like sat on my face funny. It didn't blend in properly. Again, I would like to see what it would look like now that my skin is a little bit more combo, but yeah, it just kind of broke apart on my skin. And usually that has something to do with the formulation and just me and my skin type. One that I do really like is from Givenchy. This is the Prism Libre Skin Caring Glow Foundation. This one can get really glowy, like especially depending upon the primer that you put on underneath it. Man, that really needs to be shaken up. It's a really illuminating foundation, but I feel like it's still beautiful. Like it's super skin-like. It's not too heavy. I'll almost say like it's medium coverage. Most of the ones that I just went over with you are medium coverage. Maybe aside from like the Bobbi Brown, I feel like that's more full coverage. Maybe even the Shiseido if you go in with a heavier hand. This one's like medium coverage, super radiant, gets even more radiant if you use a dewy primer, but it looks beautiful on my skin. It just works for me. Next is Pat McGrath. This is the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Foundation. This one is pretty old in my collection. It's such a lightweight formula. Like it's always just been this like really runny formula, and it doesn't offer too much coverage. Like it's light, maybe light buildable coverage, but it wears off of my skin very fast. It's nice, like it looks very beautiful and skin-like. It just isn't very long lasting. And so for a pricier foundation, I feel like I can get the same effect from like less expensive foundations. I don't necessarily feel like this is a luxury foundation when I'm putting it on. I keep it, but I think it's on the older side. Like I feel like I should declutter it soon. I have one from Charlotte Tilbury. I was just wearing this. Am I wearing this today? I feel like I might be wearing this today. This is the Beautiful Skin Foundation. I've heard a lot of like hits and misses with this product, that a lot of people didn't really like it. More people that didn't than did. But I really like it. For whatever reason, the formulation works on my skin. It looks like a, I don't know, satin finish foundation. It's medium coverage. It just looks good on me. I would almost say it's like medium buildable coverage with like, I don't know, probably a 6, 7, 8 hour wear time. Like it's nice. When I first tried this, I was like, I don't get it. It's good. And I didn't see what people disliked about it, but that's how foundations go. So they work on some skin types and just not on others. It works for me. You have one from Estee Lauder. This is the Futurist Hydra Rescue. This one has SPF of 45. This is like one of my favorites. It's super liquidy. It's just super lightweight. It's like skin-like. It's like one of the most skin-like hydrating foundations that I have that's like in luxury. It's just beautiful and perfect, and I have traveled with this. I feel like it's getting on the older side, like, and it definitely needs to go soon, but I would pick up a backup of this. I feel like Estee Lauder does a really good job on their foundations, so I don't know. This one is perfect for your light skin tint with SPF. This one I've been wearing a lot lately. This is the Lancome Tint Eagle Ultra Wear Care and Glow. I think this one came out last year. It's a satin matte foundation. It's medium, I want to say buildable coverage. Like I think you can get full coverage out of this. It's kind of a thicker consistency. Like it's a heavier texture, but it sits on my skin really well. Like surprisingly, for a satin matte foundation, it just does really well on my skin. It's just so beautiful. I don't know if the Care and Glow is supposed to mean that it was meant to be luminous. It's not luminous whatsoever. This is one that I really like that I hear literally zero people talking about. This is the Clarins Everlasting Youth Fluid. I'm doing it again. Like I always forget shades. I have Light 4 in the Pat McGrath. Givenchy is, where is the shade on this one? I feel like it's N120. The Lancome is 105W. And then Estee Lauder is in 1N2 Ecru. Now the Clarins one I have in the shade, finding the shades in and of itself is like, where's Waldo? It's 130N. So yeah, no one talks about this. It reminds me a lot of the Lancome, but like a thinner formula. It's this beautiful satin foundation, like satin matte foundation. I don't know. It's super skin-like and beautiful in the skin while offering like a lot of medium to full coverage. I don't know. Just something about it is so perfectly perfect. This does have like a lot of fragrance in it though. So the last one is, and I put this in here because I feel like Ritual de Fille is considered luxury, and especially if you look at some of their price points, like on their blushes and things like that, I feel like it's definitely on the higher priced, like kind of luxury side. So anyway, arguably this could be not in here in the high end, but I put it in here nonetheless. So this is the 3-drop weightless serum foundation. This is exactly what it says. It's 3 drops, gets you your whole complexion. It's like super oily. Oh, you're supposed to press the bottom, sorry. It's a super oily, like serum-y texture, but it like travels literally your whole face. I don't know why it does it. It's just got some oils in it that make it travel like this. It reminds me of the Laura Mercier Weightless Foundation. They're very similar, like they're formulated almost identically. It's an interesting product, but this one, for whatever reason, even though it's infused with a ton of oils, kind of looks dry on my skin, so it's not my favorite, whereas the Laura Mercier Weightless Foundation, I want to say it's called the Lightweight Weightless Foundation or something like that. It doesn't look dry on my skin, whereas this one does. This one is in the shade Potion number 120. This component you can't like squeeze, you have to like press the bottom where it says press me. You know what, I should mention with this that I think 3 drops is actually too much. It's too much coverage and too heavy. I feel like I was going in with like about 1.5 drops and it was taking me my whole complexion, and that was a better way to apply it than the 3 drops. I hate when I'm talking and I forget to press record. Okay, so just like the foundation, that I have the Prism Libre Skin Caring Concealer from Givenchy. Like the foundation that I feel like also comes with a not Care and Glow, like it almost comes with like a matte version. I don't think the concealer does. They launched this fairly recently with a bunch of color correctors. I have mine in the shade N120, so same as the foundation. Big doe foot applicator. It's a really good concealer for me. It's medium coverage, it's lightweight, and it doesn't crease. So I have really been enjoying that one. And I feel very similarly about the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Radiant Concealer, which is in the shade 4 Fair, that it's like the radiant name is in it, but that it's not overly radiant or dewy or greasy on the under eyes. It's just this like maybe light to medium coverage concealer that doesn't crease on my under eyes. I feel like that's the biggest thing. And then my holy grails here are the Dior Forever Skin Correct. This is the older version before it was reformulated. It's in 2N. They're both in 2N. They are darker than the foundation for whatever reason. I purchased it that way. This is like medium coverage, most skin-like, most long-lasting concealer probably in my whole collection. So when they reformulated, of course I had to pick up the reformulation. I feel like the reformulation isn't as full coverage and maybe doesn't even last as long. I don't know. I just feel like the consistency is the same. Like they formulated the foundation heavier and thicker, and I feel like they did the same thing for the concealer. It's almost like noticeable when you swatch it on the back of my hand the way it is for the concealer. So I keep reaching for the old version, plus I would like to, you know, pan it and use it up. It's pretty like well used. Like I would say there's probably that much left. I just feel like Dior could have just left well enough alone. I don't feel like they needed to reformulate. I have one from Pat McGrath. This is on the older side. Oh, I forget what this is called. The Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Concealer. So I think it's very similar to the name of the foundation. See how it's like oxidizing here? I think it's time for it to go. This is L5, and I feel like the formula has even changed. The last time I reached for this, I feel like it did crease on my under eyes. It may have always kind of creased a little bit. I feel like this is a heavier formula than the foundation. For whatever reason, the foundation is like super liquidy, as you saw, and it's very, very light coverage where the concealer is almost full coverage. So I don't know if I thoroughly enjoyed this ever, honestly. The next one that I have is the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Concealer. I feel like this one is like the dewy version. I know they have two, but I feel like this one's dewy. I don't know. I could be wrong. This is in the shade 2. This is another one that I really, really like. It's very lightweight, doesn't crease on the under eyes. The Very Valentino concealer that's a relatively new launch is also very nice. And this is not a mini. This is their normal size, which is nuts in my opinion. I feel like the shade kind of sucks a little bit. It's more on like the yellowy kind of orangey side. Like it's definitely got warmth in it. And this is LN2, which stands for light neutral 2. So for a neutral shade, I feel like they didn't like nail it. It's definitely on the warm side, but it's a really good concealer. Again, light buildable concealer that doesn't crease on my under eyes. Then I have the one from Bobbi Brown. Who knows what the heck the name is. oh, here it is. The Skin Full Coverage Concealer. I did pick up the mini in this. This one is in Cool Sand. Has one of those like flower, like tulip shaped tips that is like a reservoir that holds the product. It's nice, but it's also on the really warm side. And I guess for its shade, which is in Cool Sand, I don't know. If they were going for cool, because it was cool toned, they didn't nail it. Like this is super warm. I don't love it. I think it's kind of on the drier side. I'm glad that I purchased the mini. I saw someone with really dry skin try this and say that they really liked it, but it has not been my favorite. I've only probably reached for this like 5 times in testing, and I don't think I've reached for it since then. That is it for like all of the base products. Let me pull out the next category. I really have just like a small powder collection, setting sprays, and brow products, so I'll pull those out next. Okay, it's a pretty small collection of powders, brow products, and setting sprays. I feel like with setting sprays, because I don't use them that often, that a more inexpensive option is really the way to go for me. So I haven't really tried that many luxury setting sprays. I do like the Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray from Charlotte. I bought these as like, I want to say almost a holiday set when she had both of these available. Anyway, I think it's a really good setting spray, but I also have some that are drugstore or more affordable that I feel like do the same thing. So because I don't use them that often, I don't really have a lot of luxury ones in my collection. I have one brow product that's luxury. This is from Dior. This is their Dior Show Brow Styler. This one is in the shade like 001 Brown. I know that they just came out with a new like shade range. I think they added a couple of shades to this line. And so I'd be interested in picking it up because I feel like they only had like 3 shades before, and they're on the darker side. So I feel like they came out with some lighter shades. I really like this pencil, but I also really like more affordable options. For example, I feel like the e.l.f. micro brow pencil, whatever that's called, like works really well and very similarly to this, and the price is just very, very different. Also, the Benefit Precisely My Brow is less expensive. Not by much, but it's my ride or die. But the e.l.f. one I'm really getting into lately as far as micro fine brow pencils go, and it's so cheap. I would like to test out like the new shades from Dior just because I do like Dior quite a bit and I do like this pencil. It's just that I feel like the shade is a little bit too dark for me, and I feel like this was like the lightest shade that they had. Now in terms of powders, I get married to a lot of powders, but I feel like these 5 here are ones that a lot of people like, and so that's really the reason that like I've picked them up. This one is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Complexion Powder. This is in the shade 1. I've hit pan on this. I hardly hit pan on anything. I want to say I got this when I first started my makeup collection 3 years ago, and I just recently used it. I want to say maybe not today, but yesterday. and it's as beautiful as I remember it. It's just so natural looking, very finely milled. It's so beautiful without being too heavy, and I feel like that's why a lot of people can get along with it. She launched this one, I want to say it was last year. This is her Airbrush Brightening Flawless Finish Powder. This one's in the shade Fair to Medium. It's not as good of a formula in my opinion. It's not as finely milled. It's also white, and it's more for brightening, so it's kind of limiting, whereas the other powder you can use all over the face. I feel like you have to do this one kind of under the eyes. Again, not the same finely milled formula, and I don't know. I didn't see a need for this in her line. I don't personally love it. I will reach for it occasionally, but I just held on to it because it was expensive. My ride or die that I have repurchased because I've used it all up was the Dior Backstage Face and Body Powder No Powder. This one's in the shade 2N. I feel like I've heard them say that they're gonna phase this out. I really hope they don't. Like Dior with their I'm remaking products that I really don't need to remake situation is kind of getting on my nerves. It's just a super perfecting powder no powder. I feel like it's a baked formula. Oh, it makes my foundation look perfected and perfect, and it adds coverage and it locks it down. It's just so gorgeous and seamless, and like you could pick this up with basically anything. Like I don't know, you could probably apply it with your fingers. Like it's such a good product in my opinion that I feel like why would they want to discontinue it? I have one of the Hourglass Veil translucent setting powders. This one is the loose powder form, obviously. I think this is kind of on the heavier side, so I feel like a lot of people with dry skin probably couldn't get away with this. I feel like when I had more dry skin, I struggled with this powder a little bit, but now that my skin is more combo, I like it so much more. It is beautiful and perfecting, but I feel like it's on the heavier side. Like it's smooth, but it's just not meant for people with dry skin. At least it didn't work for me back then. I feel like this one, the pressed powder, ambient lighting powder, and ethereal light worked so much better for me when I had my dry skin because it's so much more lightweight. I love it now, but I really liked it back then. I think Hourglass does a really good job in their powders. I would just say dry skin would be best to use the pressed powder, and the Veil loose setting powder I think is better for like combo oily skin. Now we're on into blushes. I grouped my powder blushes with my cream and liquid as well. So for powder blushes, I have two of the Dior Backstage Rosy Glow blushes. I have the 001 in pink, and then this is the 004 in coral. I'm not as over the moon, I feel like, as some people about this formulation. I kind of think it's a little bit hard pressed. Like as you can see, I love Dior products, but I feel like this is just on the powdery side and kind of hard pressed. I feel like there are a ton of blush formulas out there, and even Drugstore is killing it in a lot of cases, that for $40 blushes, I don't know that these blow my mind. They're not bad, but I don't know that they blow my mind. I picked up the pink shade first because everyone was raving about the formula, so I wanted to try the formula, but I wasn't such a fan of the shade on me, so that's why I ended up getting the coral one. This one I prefer more just because it's my color choice. Then I have one from Charlotte, which is the Cheek to Chic in Pillow Talk. I really do like this. I feel like I used to reach for this constantly because it's like a shimmery, very slight sheeny product. I feel like Essence has a lot of these now, but at the time this was, I think, one of a kind. It's a beautiful shade and like doesn't switch to gray, even though it has a bit of a sheen to it. So it's such a beautiful product. I feel like I would always want that in my collection. I have one of the ambient lighting blushes from Hourglass. This one is in Mood Exposure. It's beautiful, like airbrushing, super soft baked formula. It's really nice, and it's a buildable formula. Hourglass just, I think, does a good job with their powder products. Then I have one from Pat McGrath. This is one of her Skin Fetish Divine blushes. This is in Divine Rose. I kind of feel similarly to this one as I do the Dior, is that it's kind of like hard pressed. It's a smoother formula. Like overall, this has just a ton more smoothness to it than the Dior, which is kind of like even on the dry side looking, but I don't know that it, again, knocks my socks off the way that I feel like it got a ton of hype out of it. Like I feel like I've swatched drugstore blushes that kind of do similar things, and I feel like I get flack for that every time I post that on one of my videos. It's definitely a nice formula and like diffused and airbrush and buildable. I have one here from Gucci. I really like this. This is the Luminous Matte Blush in Rosy Beige. I took this traveling with me. This feels like a putty. It's so smooth and it's so pigmented. It's so good. Like in comparison, it's just so much softer than the Pat McGrath. It's not a whole lot of products and it's pretty darn expensive, but it's something else. For a luxury product, like I feel like they killed it with that formulation. I have one from Guerlain that I feel like I can't like get on board with 100%. I think it's their Terracotta Sun-Kissed Healthy Glow Powder in Terracotta Light. That's what it is. It's super hard pressed and like it's almost a bronzer, but like it's kind of a blush. Like I think it's meant to be a hybrid. I know like a lot of luxury brands will do that with powders. They'll call it a powder, but it'll be a highlighter, and then it'll be confusing. I feel like that's what this is. This is expensive and I like it. It's just kind of on the drier side and like a confusing situation. Is it a blush or is it a bronzer? I keep it in my blushes because I feel like that's way too warm for a bronzer. It's more like a coral blush shade for me, but it's not the greatest formulated blush either. A really good formulated powder blush is the Luminous Silk Blush. This one is in the shade 30. This one is from Armani. You guys, this one feels so similar to the one from Gucci, and that it's like so soft and so pigmented, and you basically don't even need to have a degree in blush to figure this out. Like it's so simple. It's a user-friendly formula that's so gorgeous. Again, super pricey, but like these are probably my favorite in terms of like all the ones that I just showed you of my powder blushes. Like these two are formulated the smoothest. You know what, since we're leaving off with Giorgio and the powder, let's do that for the cream. This is one of the Neo Nude Melting Color Balms. This is also in the shade 30. I guess I liked the shade 30. This is something else. Like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a cream powder. It's so cool, but the pigment just goes on and on and on. Like this pigmentation is intense. It's super intense. It's super long lasting. I can barely dip my finger in and I can pick up so much product. It's so well formulated that I feel like everyone should try this formulation. If I had to pick one cream blush to keep the rest of my life, it would be that one. I have 3 of the matte beauty wands from Charlotte. I have Peach Pop, Pink Pop, and Pillow Talk. These are all gorgeous. Like I love the matte formulation. I didn't find any luminosity to these. They're long lasting. The formula is like the same great formula. It gives you so much time to work before it dries down, and it doesn't have any like sheen to it. I didn't like the sheen. I say that because the sheen always looked like super metallic. I'll show you. On my cheeks, and it emphasized all of my texture, so I didn't really like the original formula. I always say that in my videos that formulation, I liked it. Like I liked the formula, I guess I just didn't love the finish because it's just, oh, it emphasized so much texture on my cheeks. I think this one's in Pillow Talk. No, it's Pinkgasm. Anyway, it emphasized all of the texture I didn't even know I had. So I love the matte formula, or the matte finish, so much more. It's just the same great formula. I have a dewy finish one from Rowan. This is one of their, I don't know, cream blushes, I guess, in Natural Rose. I want to say that this is like a harder pressed dewy finish formula. It's more buildable. I heard a lot of hype about these, I want to say last year, but I don't think it's my favorite for its price point, and that like it's good. And it's a buildable, like dewy blush, but I feel like I have that. I don't know, there's just nothing that gets me inspired about this, I guess. Nothing that just stands out over some of the other ones that I have, but it is nice. One that's even more sheer is the Ritual Defy. They call these the Inner Glow Cream Pigments, so they can be used for cheeks, lips, eyes. This one is in the shade Desire. It actually has a pretty strong scent to it too. I don't know what it is, like eucalyptusy. It's an interesting product just with like a lot of fragrance to it, honestly. Like it's pretty, it just stays tacky on the cheeks. I have 2 of the new Pat McGrath. These are called the Divine Blush Legendary Glow Color Balms. I have mine in the shade Paradise Peony, and the other one I believe is like in a corally shade. Oh, Peach Lotus. I really like these. Like, I just did a ranking video of all of my blushes that launched in 2023, and I think these are good. They're glowy, they're dewy, they don't dry down fully, but they have good pigmentation, so I feel like they're good for what they are. The packaging, a little bit cheap for Pat, but I do like the formula. I have one from Chanel that I really love because it's a cream to powder formula. This is the Le Beige Blush number 24. It's like a peachy shade. It almost has like gold sparkles in it, but it's super pigmented cream to powder formula. Like, just my kind of thing. So I really enjoy that. Like, I would get other shades in this formula because I think it's good. I have one from Victoria Beckham. This is the Cheeky Posh Stick in Knickers. I feel like it's so similar to the one from Chanel. Look at that. Even the shade is kind of close. I think that it's maybe a little bit more dewy, like not as fully matte. It's definitely like a cream to powder formula though. I have one from Westman Atelier. This is one of their Baby Cheeks blush sticks in Petal, which is I think a really popular shade. I feel like this one is so good. Like, over the other two, it's so much more creamy while still having like a lot of opacity and pigmentation. Oh geez Louise. So, and the packaging is super sturdy with this, like, such a good formulation, honestly. Like, better than I feel like these two are. Maybe a little bit different, but still the better of the three options. Then I have one from Kjaer Weis that I don't care for, and I can't remember what shade this is, but it's almost like it's a shade plus a formula thing. It's, I don't know. It's like on the dewier side and more sheer. Like, it just kind of shears out once you kind of rub it in, and it's almost like gray. Like, it looks kind of gray on my cheeks. I don't know if you guys can kind of see that, but because it's just this more sheer formula, like, you almost have to like layer it up and then it just looks super heavy. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this, but again, it really could be a shade thing and not necessarily like that it's a buildable formula. So that is it for the blushes. Let's move on into the bronzers next. Here are all my luxury bronzers. I thought I had more than this, but I don't. This is both cream, liquid, and powder. So we'll start with the powder ones. I have one from Victoria Beckham. This is one of her bricks. She calls it the Matte Bronzing Brick. This is in the shade 01. I think it's really pretty. This is too light of a shade for me. This one is the one that I always reach for. I mean, it's nice if you want to blend them together, but I really don't find myself getting a whole lot of use out of that shade. Even this one is pretty light. It's kind of hard pressed in the pan, honestly. I mean, it's a little bit of a stiff formula. It's not as soft as I feel like it could be, but the packaging is like amazing. I mean, it's nice for a light bronzer. It looks very luxurious and light on the skin. It's not overdone. And the packaging here is like 10 out of 10. It's an 11 out of 10. This thing is, I don't know, a pound. It's heavy. This is a removable compact, so like I could get, you know, a deeper shade maybe and just keep the component without having to like repurchase this. It's nice, it's just definitely on the lighter side. And then I have one from Pat McGrath. I again said that I didn't think this was like the softest formula or, you know, an outstanding bronzer in my collection. I think it's good, but I don't know. I guess I'm just not over the moon about her powder formulas. This is the Skin Fetish Divine bronzer in Naked Desire. So don't come for me. I think it's an okay product. I really prefer, as far as luxury products go, this one from Tom Ford. This is the Glow Bronzer. This one is luminous, like it has a tiny bit of radiance to it. And for a harder pressed formula, I just feel like, you know, you just get more out of it, just more pigmentation than like the Pat McGrath. It does have this like weird texture in it. I don't know if your guys's did that, but mine does it. I mean, like, I don't have any trouble picking it up on a brush or anything. It still deposits like a lot of pigment and products like on the swatch even, but for whatever reason it just looks like really rigid, not rigid, ridged, and it's like hard in the pan. I don't know. I have one here from Sicily. This is their Phyto Touch, I don't know, gel powder, Sun Glow bronzing gel powder. I don't believe this came in a shade. I feel like Sicily just came out with one shade. This is a really like deep glowy product. Like, it has a good glow to it. It's very warm shade, but It's kind of just a glowy product. Like, it's really nice. I quite enjoy this. This is the only thing I've ever tried from Sicily, but I do think that it's good quality. I have one from Gucci that I'm so sad about. This is their bronzing powder in the shade 02. I got 02 and I should have gotten 01. This is just like their blush. It's so beautiful, but it's too deep of a shade for me. And I thought by looking at the pictures online that 01 was not dark enough. So I ended up picking up 02. I like can make it work, but like not really. It really is too dark. I just don't want to get rid of it. I should replace it for a lighter shade, but I always try and make this work. The formula though is so good and so soft and so creamy and so easily blendable. I'm just coming to love the heck out of Gucci products. The last one that I have is from Westman Atelier. This is their Beauty Butter Powder Bronzer in the shade Coupe de Soleil. It's definitely a buttery feeling bronzer. It's nice and soft and buildable and blendable. It's nice packaging as well. This is super heavy. I almost want to say it weighs like more than the one from Victoria Beckham, but I don't think this is, yeah, this is not like a removable component. It's just a super nice formula, no hassle. I keep it in the little thing, I don't know why. Now I only have 3 like cream and liquids. The one from Charlotte is the Beautiful Skin Sun Kiss Glow Bronzer in the shade Fair. This is so good. Like, this is a cream to powder delightfulness. This honestly reminds me a lot of like the Honest Beauty cream cheek and lips, like their blushes basically, but it's like that cream to powder formula, like almost kind of putty in the pan. I don't know, it's so cool. It's super big, but it's a really good powder matte finish. Like, it's so easy to work with. I feel like anybody could use this. The one from Chanel is really nice, but it does have a pretty strong fragrance. I really like this. I kind of wish the shade wasn't so warm though. They might have a cooler tone. This one is in the shade 390 Soleil Tan Bronze, and I feel like that's the lightest one. This is their Le Beige Cream Healthy Glow Bronzing Cream. I wish there was a more neutral tone to this. I don't mind the scent. I think it's a really good formula. It's like a balm, so it has like a little bit of luminosity, but it's a really, really easy product to work with. It's still kind of on the powdery side, even though it's like balm-like. Here are all my highlighters and like face palettes or duos. So like this one's a duo. I think this has 3 different blushes in it, or 2 blushes and a highlighter. So I didn't have many, so I just grouped them together. So we'll go over the highlighters first. These are always my favorite to swatch. I have 2 from Bobbi Brown, the highlighting powders. I have one in Peach Glow. These are like my favorite, honestly. The most like sophisticated, smooth formula that just lasts a super long time but is super light reflecting. They're expensive. I think it's like $52. And then I have Pink Glow. I think I like Pink Glow better. I mean, they're very similar. I just feel like I like the Pink Glow's shade a little bit more. Those are, I think, like my second favorite highlighter, probably my favorite powder formula. I have one from Dior. I'm not as big of a fan of this. This is their Backstage Glow Face Palette. So it's supposed to be bronze, peach, I don't know, maybe 2 highlighters. So technically you could probably use this as a bronzer, a blush, and 2 highlighters. This is too glowy of a bronzer for me. That would almost be like a blush. It's definitely not a highlighter. But I'd like to think that I could probably use all these shades, even though this is probably meant as like an artistry palette slightly, and that it's more meant for like someone to use this for multiple skin tones and all be a highlighter palette, even though it calls itself a face palette. I like the 2 highlighters. I feel like this is not a good shade for a blush, and I wouldn't use it for like a highlighter either. I don't know, it's just not very impactful. And this is just kind of too glowy as a bronzer, I feel like, but too deep obviously for a highlighter. I really like this shade though, this yellow one. I like a yellow highlighter. This one has a lot of sparkles in it, but it's the prettiest one of the 4, I feel like. So I do like it for that. Again, it just, I don't know. Dior's powder formula, aside from the powder no powder, it doesn't wow me. Like with the blushes, kind of the same thing. I feel like it's smooth to the touch. It's just kind of grainy. I don't know if you guys feel that way. I know that's like a pretty popular product, so that could be a hot take. I have this one from Chantecaille, which is actually a blush. This is from their Lotus collection. So it's the Lotus Blossom Radiant Blush. This was actually limited edition, so I don't feel like it's available anymore. But it's too, like, it looks like it would be deep enough for a blush, but like barely picks up anything. And it's so lightly pigmented. It's basically a highlighter. So I've just put it in my highlighter drawer. I hate it as the blush. I think it's a better highlighter, but also maybe not shimmery enough. Like, I don't think this was good from Chantecaille. Like, I have to say, the one shade, the formula is not really easy to work with. It's not really, like, it's not a great blush because it shifts gray. So I kept that through my past blush declutter and moved it to my highlighter drawer, but I haven't reached for it since that video to use as a highlighter. I have one from La Bouche Rouge. I actually really enjoy this. Hello, come out. This is a super punchy highlighter, and for being like a luxury highlighter, I feel like, I don't know, it's more punchy than a lot of like luxury highlighters are. Like, once it gets to the cheeks, it's like super light reflecting. I don't know, it's so beautiful. It's long lasting. It's super creamy. I really like that from La Bouche Rouge. I haven't tried anything else from them, but it's kind of one of those products that it's just so pretty that it would make me want to try something else from them. I have this one, which is like a highlighter bronzer duo. It's the Film Star Bronze and Glow from Charlotte. And I like both of these. This is like, I kind of feel like on the more natural side. The bronzer's a little bit light. Like, it's good if you like a light bronze and a natural highlighter. I have one of the single highlighters. It's called the Glow Glide Face Architect Highlighter. This one's in Moonlit Glow. I like this formula. I just feel like this one is more shimmery than a lot of her other highlighters, but it's still natural. I don't want to say shimmery, I should say more light reflecting, but it's still on the natural side. This one was a limited edition, the Pillow Talk Multi Glow Beautifying All Over Glow Highlighter. I did not like as much because I didn't like this doesn't come out as a highlighter for me. Like, look at that. I think this was supposed to be a face palette, and that you could like take this one shade, you know, and then like this shade if it worked for you, but they all meld together and basically give me the same shade. So I wasn't a fan of this. You can't even get it anymore anyway, but I feel like if it was less expensive, I would have decluttered it by now. Two of the liquid ones from Charlotte, the Beauty Light Wand. What do I have this? In the shade Pillow Talk. It's like almost a blush. It's so pigmented, but such a good formula. This is one of my favorite liquid highlighters of, I think, even over this one, because this one emphasizes a ton of texture. This one does not. It just looks like super natural. This is the Hollywood Flawless Filter. I don't like this under my foundation. I like this as a straight up like natural looking highlighter, because look, once you blend it in, you just catch the light in like just the right way. And if you put this like on the high points of your face, it's just like, oop, glow, glow, without having any shimmer in it. Like, it's actually really cool. It's like almost like pearls. Like, it reminds me of the Say. I can't remember what the Say one is called. I want to say it's like the Dewy Glow or something. It reminds me a lot of that. I feel like that's what Say was kind of going for. Just a natural lit from within. So this is one of my favorites. Then I have one of her, I don't know if this is limited edition or not, Pillow Talk Beautifying Face Palette. This one was in the shade Pillow Talk Fair to Medium. I really liked this. I feel like it had mixed reviews because people were saying this was so hard pressed in the pan, it was hard to get out. I didn't get that though. Like, I immediately got pigment on a fluffy brush, and I thought these shades were awesome. The formula was really nice. It's a baked powder formula. I feel like I even liked the highlighters, like even more than I have Charlotte's powder highlighters before. I kind of feel like these ones were better than even the, like, for example, this one, the Glow Architect, and this one for sure. I just liked the palette. I really thought it was good quality. I still stand by that. I feel like these are a really good baked formula from her. I have one of the Hourglass ones from, I want to say 2 years ago, the Lighting Edit Universe. I don't know what shade this is in. Strobe Light? I can't even tell you. It's so soft, such a good formulation. Like, wow, look at that. It's so pigmented. It's so easy to pick up on a brush. I like this kind of, I don't know, I feel like this is the formulation that I like in a face palette. Like everything works. Like blush is beautiful, highlighter is beautiful, bronzer is beautiful. It's not like I get some in here that I don't like. I like everything, except maybe this finishing powder. I don't know if I reach for this one as much as I do these. Hourglass does a really good job. You know, they keep coming out with versions of these, but I feel like I have one and that's all I need. I see some people just keep buying the new releases and I don't know if they're that different. They're good, I just don't think you need more than one. I have one from Pat McGrath that it was the Bridgerton collection. This is Divine Rose and Glow Trio Love at First Blush. So it has 2 of her blushes in it and they're in Cherish and Nymphette, and then Venus Nectar is the highlighter, I'm pretty sure. So I actually really like the highlighter in here. Like much more than the blushes. Isn't that beautiful? It's so soft and smooth. These blushes feel softer than her single that I have. So like if it comes down to like formula in her blush, I feel like whatever reason, these are so much softer and like better formulated. Is that even possible that it's a different formulation in the collection than the single compacts? I don't know, probably, but I like these so much more. I love this shade and this highlighter is awesome. Like this highlighter is the highlight of this palette for me. I don't think that I love it necessarily like holistically. I kept reaching for the highlighter. So not even sure you can get that anymore, but I don't think that's a new formula from Pat. I think she has that formula highlighter in her permanent collection. I just feel like Pat McGrath isn't known for her highlighters, and I would argue that she does those like extremely well. Speaking of Pat McGrath highlighters, I almost forgot this one. This one is the Sublime Skin Highlighting Palette. I feel like it didn't like come in a shade. It's just this trio. Like speaking of really good highlighter formulas, like she knows what she's doing here. Like these are amazing. This one is so unique in my collection. Look at this. It's like this yellow, oh, hello. I love this formula. Nobody talks about this formula from her. Again, like she does highlighters really well, and like nobody talks about her highlighter formula the way that they do like her blush formula, in my opinion. But this shade right here, oh, it's like one of my favorite highlighters of all time. Here are all my single shadows and my quads. I think I grabbed all my quads. There might be a couple more that I'm missing that are in the stack over there, but I think these are all the quads. So we'll go over the singles first. I have 2 of the Pop Shots or Hypnotizing Pop Shots from Charlotte Tilbury. I have one in the shade Sunlit Diamond. I think these are really pretty. I think that they're quite light reflecting. They're good pigmentation. They have like sparkles in them. I think they're nice. They're definitely high priced. The packaging is cute, but it like feels like plastic. So they're very lightweight. They do feel cheap in that way. I think they're nice though. They're not the best that I have in my collection, but they're pretty darn good for Charlotte, I think. And then I have 2 from Chantecaille. This one is the Luminescent Eye Shade Cheetah. It's the Warm Champagne. I feel like I like one of these more than the other. I feel like this one's the one I like. It's such a smooth, baked formula. Like it's so pretty for like, I don't know, kind of a sophisticated, simple eye look. And then this one is Rose Gold. I don't like this as much because I feel like it's not as light reflecting. I almost feel like this isn't like a lid shade. It's more like a, I don't know, like a transition shade. So for that reason, I kind of felt disappointed with this because those singles are pretty pricey. I have one here. This is actually a duo from Surratt. So it has a cream right here, and then this shimmer shade is amazing. So the cream is really good quality, super pigmented, easy to work with. It's a cream to powder formula. And then this shimmer, so nice. I shouldn't do it with my pinky. It's beautiful. Like, and both of these together, like laying them on top of each other is just gorgeous. Like this is a really good product from Surratt. Expensive, but good quality. Then I have 2 of the Eyes to Mesmerize by Charlotte. These are brand new to me. I have only tested these once on my eyes. Like they're really creamy and super pigmented, but I feel like the one time that I tried to use it, like it faded off so fast during the day. Like it was gone after a couple of hours. because they're just so creamy, like I don't know what the trick is to getting them to like dry down. I kind of feel like they stay a little bit dewy for a long time. So these are, you know, 35 bucks a piece, I think. So I'm still testing the formula. I don't know how to make them work yet because I feel like they lift. Like they never dry down. And when they do, they kind of like diffuse into nothing. So I don't know if you guys know the trick to making these last, let me know. I have one of the scattered lights from Hourglass. This one is the glitter eyeshadow in Aura. I think this is really good. Like I think Moira Beauty, which is inexpensive, does better than this, or like similar to their like lucent cream shadows that Moira Beauty has, but it's still a really nice formula. Like this one has sparkles in it. I think the reason that this is so nice is that it's just like this super soft, I don't know, kind of like natural looking sparkle. I don't know if you can see like the tiny little glitters that it has in there. It's really, really pretty. Like, and it goes on easily without creating a ton of fallout. I think Victoria Beckham does a really good job on her lid lusters. This one is in the shade Blonde. It's so beautiful. Ooh, it's like this yellowy shade. It's a really, really unique single in my collection. I feel like I need to pick up more from her because this is just such a good formula. Like, it has a little bit of sparkles in it, but boy, you see that shift? Like gold, like white gold. Oh, it's so pretty. I think she does a really good job. And again, the packaging is just so sturdy. Like it's this glass jar, whereas like the one from Hourglass is straight up plastic. I don't know. There's just something about Victoria Beckham's quality on her packaging. She just does a really good job. For the price point, I feel like you get your money's worth out of it. Okay, now moving into the quads. I feel like this is actually a 6-pan. This is the Pat McGrath Mini Eyeshadow Palette in Sublime Smoke. I like this quality. Yeah, it is a 6-pan. This is actually beautiful. Like it has one warm tone shade, cool tone shade, 2 warm tone shades, 3 shimmers. Like I love the even disbursement. I like how she's placed it out. This is such a beautiful smoky shadowed palette, and I can actually get my fingers in those tiny little pans. Like it's so pretty. This is such a good palette from her. I honestly prefer it so much more than, this is the most recent one, I think. This is the Luxe Eyeshadow Quad in Passion Fleur. I feel like this is her most recent quad. Like it's nice, but the only matte in here is this one. It's like not a super wearable tone for me. And I don't know that I like this shade here is probably my absolute favorite in the whole palette. And I feel like that makes up for it, even though this is, it's a nice purple. I just feel like it's not a shade I would reach for all the time. I feel like once it gets to the eyes, it looks a little childlike. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. And like, I don't feel like that these two tones match this purple. I feel like this one is so much nicer. You could use these two shades together. That's pretty much what I do. But this shade I wore today, it's on the chunkier side, but it's so and smooth, and it just feels so good. It just looks so beautiful on the eyes. I really do like this one. This one again has another pretty unique shade. This is the Venus and Fleur Luxe Quad in Voyeuristic Vixen. I do like this shade more than the purple. Ooh, I'm like swatching on top of makeup remover. So that didn't come out great, but this is just a much more flattering shade to me personally on all my eyes. And this shifty like duochrome here, oh my gosh, it makes up for the whole palette. Like look at that. I've known Pat McGrath to do formulas like this, but like I feel like in the bigger palettes that I don't have anything like this. It's so smoothing. Like this whole palette, I would spend the money for just that shade right there. Wow, do you see how pigmented that matte shade in the Pat McGrath palette was? I cannot get it off. Like, I don't remember it being that pigmented. It's wild. I have one quad here from Chanel. I like this, but it's all a shimmer palette. Like, it's all straight shimmers, which is cool, but it's like a companion palette. They're not the best shimmers I've ever tried, but it's not half bad. Like, the quality isn't bad for luxury. I mean, it's pricey, but I feel like the shimmers are really nice. So if I were to reach for this, like I'm not disappointed in the shimmers. All of my Viseart quads are left. I'm just a fan of the formula. I mean, some of them are on the more powdery side, and so I don't feel like they're all formulated equally, but usually the mattes are the most blendable. Viseart has a way of picking tones that just complement each other. The shimmers are light and very sophisticated, so these are usually pretty everyday palettes for me, even though the color stories may not be. Like the formula is just one that I really like reaching for all the time, and they're all like evenly matched. Like they all usually have 2 mattes to 2 shimmers. That's my kind of ratio. So anyway, these are all the Petite Fours. So the first one that I have is Lila Doe, or Doe. These shimmers, again, like they're just really pretty and sophisticated. Like you get good pigmentation out of them, but aren't they like, ugh, I'm just never disappointed. And the formulas are usually exactly the same. Sometimes they'll give you like a duochrome in there, but usually they're just like these very light everyday shimmers that just work. I don't know, they're gorgeous. And like I said, the mattes are usually super blendable, long lasting. They basically blend themselves. So I'll just go through and show you the color stories on each of them, because I feel like the formula for most of these is exactly the same. This one is the Rosea Lotus. This one comes from their new Lotus collection. This one is more on the powdery side. Like, I don't find the quality in these mattes to be as good as some of their other ones. So like this is one of the few that's kind of inconsistent for me. Then the Amelie, this is one of my favorite like warm toned, quick and easy eyeshadow palettes. These 2 shades, they look similar, but they are very different. And look at that shimmer. Oof. They are very different when they translate to the eyes. I don't know, this is just one of my favorite like warm tone smoky looks. It just looks so different than what's on the box. This is another one that I really love, like a warm toned color story. This is the Garnet or Garnet. I don't know. I feel like you wouldn't pronounce the T. Oh look, I lost the thing. Except that this shade right here is useless to me because it doesn't show up on me, and I don't use brightening shades. So I like this palette minus that. This one is the Violetta. I love this palette for this duochrome right here. Again, I just don't feel like the palette matches the picture. Like this is not the same as this. Like that's burgundy, that's pink. So I don't know, the pictures don't always match, but oh, and this one too. Like that does not look like that, does it? Anyway, this duochrome is so beautiful on the eyes. I feel like this is an awesome like cool tone palette. I love burgundy shades on me. I love burgundy shades for like a smoky eyeshadow look. So that one is really nice. I'm getting eyeshadow everywhere. This one is the Sakura Lotus. I like this one. Again, this is not, like, look how different they look. These 2 matte shades do not look like that at all, to me, personally. I think this is nice. I don't love the shimmers as much as I love the mattes in this one. I don't know what it is, but I feel like these are on like the lighter side. I don't know. I just didn't, I'm coming to see how like there's not a whole lot of like light reflection to it. It's almost like a straight up satin matte. I don't know. I feel like the Lotus collection was not good. This one and the other one that I was telling you was on the powdery side. Like, I just don't feel like they were formulated the same. And that's their most recent launch. This last one is from the Lotus collection too. This is the Water Lotus. Same thing. They're just kind of on the powdery side. And they aren't long lasting either. Like, these were bad quality in my opinion. I just don't think that they're, look at that. Compared to like that one right there. Just, it's not like the same. What is that? Where is the light reflection compared to what they have done in the past? I don't know. The Lotus collection was not good to me. So those 3, I feel like I'm sorry that I got the Lotus collection. Like after using them for a while, I realized that they are not at all the same formula as what I'm used to in their other palettes. Okay, here are some of my larger palettes. I actually missed this quad here from Rowan in the last one. I had it in the last pile. This one is like, I think they're all cream from Rowan. I don't particularly love this. Like these shades are kind of on the softer side. They just don't pick up a lot. I mean, I think they're nice for cream. I feel like I want more pigment out of them. The one shade that I do kind of like is this one, and it's on the chunkier side. It's more like a glitter. It's a nice wet looking shadow. I just don't know if I love this. I'm getting more into cream shadows now, so I might pull this back out and see if I like it. But I think when I bought it, I wasn't necessarily into cream, and I felt like the formula was just a little bit hard. So this one is the 1111, however they call that. And then the rest of my Visearts, this is the Spritz Edit. This is one of my favorite color stories because it's a really warm tone palette. There's a lot of different shimmers, a lot of different mattes, and I can create different looks, more neutral and then more pink. So I really like this one. Then I have the Cashmere. This one is cool tone. If you guys have seen me talk about eyeshadows before, cool tone shadows, I feel like they don't always look that good on me. I want to love cool tones, but depending upon the tone, they don't always look that great on me. I picked this up because I like Viseart, but this is probably not my favorite or one of my least favorites of Visearts. Then I have the Petite Pro Trois. This one's kind of a strange like mix of greens in there. This one is the London Etoile. This one's interesting too because it has like a really bright purple, like two purples I guess, kind of mixed in with brown and like taupe shades. This one almost looks like green. Again, probably not one that I reach for that often because it has those purples. I feel like purples you can't wear as much to work. Like I feel like you can get away with pink and oranges and greens more easily than you can purples, so I don't always reach for that. This one is the Soleil La Plage. This one's fun, like a summer color story with a pop of blue, but also, you know, neutral shades that I can wear to work. The La Mara, more warm tone, so you can see I've dug into that one pretty well. I like a lot of these shimmers. This one in particular is really pretty. And then this one is the San Francisco Etoile. I feel like some of these, they throw in these really interesting colors in neutral color stories. And I don't always know how to create looks out of them, but I was using this as eyeliner a lot and I liked it. And finally, I have a Petite Pro. This is, I don't know, the Petite Pro 2 18A. This is like one of the first ones that I feel like I ever picked up. Maybe not, I don't know, I can't remember, but it doesn't appear to have like a name like the rest. So, and then for my Tom Ford quads here, I'm not a huge fan of Tom Ford quality, but I love the idea of it in this really luxe packaging. This one is the Eye Color Quad in Honeymoon, and I always love the color stories. It's just that the pigmentation isn't as much as I like. It's just on the more sheer side. So it's really pretty. Like this is a full satin palette. It's really pretty in terms of the color story. It's just that like when you get this to the eyes, like it swatches so much better than it picks up on a brush. And I don't use my fingers to build eye looks, so, well, for the most part I don't. And it fades really quickly. I mean, they're beautiful and that's why I've kept buying them, but they pick up better on a swatch than they do a brush. And they kind of sheer out when you blend them in, so. Plus they're $90 for four shades. And Chanel's not even as expensive as Tom Ford. Although you get more shadow with the Tom Ford ones than with the Chanel ones. This one's in Pretty Baby. I really like this one because it has this, gosh, I should get rid of those. It has this like duochrome to it. This one is also pretty sheer. Like some of these mattes here are more on the sheer side, but this is a beautiful mermaidy shimmer. I try to like preserve the packaging and keep this with these little things, but why did they keep putting these in here? Like no one is ever gonna use those. You could get 2 more shadows out of it, but why? This one is in Leopard Sun. Ooh, I feel like Leopard Sun is not available. Well, it is maybe on like other retailers, but not on their site. I really like this shimmer. Like I thought it was beautiful. It's kind of this wet looking, like sparkly shadow. I don't know, it's just formulated really well. Like the sparkles are really fine and thin. So I don't know, it looks really beautiful. And this is my kind of like fiery color story. But again, the pigmentation is so light when you pick it up on a brush that I feel like it looks better in the pan than it actually performs. Okay, here are all my luxury larger palettes. Pretty much Pat McGrath and Bobbi Brown. This one might be a little bit boring for you. And I only have 3 Pat McGrath palettes. I have in like the larger ones. The Divine Rose 7, I guess. I mean, it's really beautiful. This is almost like a nice cool tone palette. And I like some of these are really beautiful. Like this one's a duochrome, but it's smooth, and this one just has like a lot of glitters in it. Like some of the shimmers in here are quite honestly just very beautiful. And I kind of feel like this one's different. Like it's not just your pinkies, like you get a lot of cool tones in this one, whereas a lot of her palettes are like on the pink side. She just has like, you know, a light pink, a dark pink, and then a lot of shimmers. I feel like that's one, that is like how this one looks. This one is the Mothership 8 Divine Rose 2, but it has like some bright pinks in here. Like these are pretty traditional colors for her, I feel like, but you know, having this right here is kind of unusual. It's kind of a satin, it's not really a shimmer. And then this one I feel like is kind of different for her palettes. And then there's like this duochrome here. I don't know, I feel like both of the ones that I picked up are just kind of different than some of the more recent releases. So I do like these. Then I have one of the holiday releases. This was 2021 holiday, I'm pretty sure. It's Mothership Mega Celestial Odyssey. I don't think this is my favorite. Like I don't find a lot of use for the mattes. Like there's 4. And I feel like, you know, it's pretty much the same look the entire time. And so you're just kind of rotating shimmers, but I don't like to pair a ton of these shimmers with the mattes in here because they're on like the pinky side for the most part. You get this warm tone and then this warm tone brown. And so like these shimmers, I mean, they're beautiful, but the shimmers don't match for me in the mattes. Like they're nice. It's just more that this is like a companion palette. I feel like this is enough for me though. I don't feel like I need to pick up any more of the holiday releases. And then I have 2 from Bobbi Brown. These are just an impulse purchase, quite honestly. The packaging is so beautiful. This was limited, they're both limited edition, but this is the Luxe Eye and Cheek Quad. Who knows what it is because they're basically always called the same thing. The Luxe Eye and Cheek palette, not quad. This is the quad, this is the palette. But the packaging is just so beautiful and it gets me every time. Honestly though, the quality is really good. Even though it's not a lot of shades, like it's really kind of sophisticated, and so it gets me. Like this is like this sparkly, beautiful, it's I don't even know. It's just that it's like really good for luxury in my opinion. See these like shifty beautifulness that I don't necessarily expect from high-end or luxury brands. I think it's really good. So yeah, another companion palette, but still so beautiful. I feel like this one's almost like a highlighter, but you can use it as eyeshadow. And then this is the Luxe Eyeshadow Quad. Again, they don't like have a name. This one was more recent. That's like the Lunar New Year one. This one even might be still available for sale certain places. But again, these shades are honestly just to die for. These ones are more glittery than the other one, but still there's just something about them. Ooh, I got a bad swatch. That like, they're just so fun to play with and to look at, and they're like beautiful in the eyes. So I can't help but reach for these. I think Bobbi Brown actually still does a good job on the eyeshadows. Okay, now on to luxury lip products. I don't have that many. I feel like Drugstore and yeah, Drugstore does a really good job with lip products these days. And so I find like this formulas are pretty similar. I splurge occasionally, and there are some in here that I feel like aren't matched by others. Like for example, the YSL I feel like is a splurge. The Pat McGrath, I feel like she does a really good job on these lip glosses. So I have 3 lip liners. I feel like I'll go over those first. I have one from Pat McGrath. That's the Permagel Ultra Lip Pencil in Cosmic Vibes. It's pretty and beautiful, and it's a really nice creamy formula, but is also long lasting. Then I have a mini, and it is in Living Legend. This is a deeper tone. I wear a lot of like these like deeper shades because I feel like they look good on fair skin tones. And then I have straight up Pillow Talk, also a mini from Charlotte. Oh, that's not swatching well. This really needs to be sharpened better. it's a good formula. And then some more lip minis here. I have one from Pat McGrath. This is the matte formula. It's the mini matte trance lipstick in, what is this, Flesh 5. Again, see like these deeper tones I feel like look really good. Like this matte formula is super, super creamy, but super smoothing. Like it's like line filling. This is a really good formula from Pat. It's like honestly one of my favorite like matte formulas. But like pairing it with this one from Pat is just so beautiful. And then I think I have a small pillow talk. Yeah, small mini pillow talk from Charlotte. Here's the two next to each other. Then I have a teeny tiny like tester from Dior. This is their Dior Addict Lip Maximizer. It's in the 001 pink shade. I don't know how well this is gonna swatch with this tiny little doe foot applicator. It came free in like a Dior purchase, I think, when I bought their new concealer. It's nice. It's a little bit sticky, but it's pretty. And then I have one from Givenchy. This is a formula that I would like to pick up other shades. This is their Rose Perfecto Liquid Balm in 001. It's like got a minty tingle to it because it's almost like plumping, and it's really nice packaging too. It has like this faux leather top and glass bottom. It's almost like a lip oil. It's so soft. It's a very luxurious formula from Givenchy, honestly. And that's why I'd like to pick up more, because I think it's a pretty good luxury product. I have one of the crushed liquid lips from Bobbi Brown. This one is in Juicy Date. This is a nice, really opaque liquid lip, you know, high shine. Oh, it's pretty. Then I have the two from YSL. One is this one's the limited edition collection, which was called the Rouge Volupté Rock and Shine in 10, and it had like a little star in the middle. Oof, they're so high shine. They're like a balm meets lipstick, and they smell like a package of summer. This one is in 88. This is just the Rouge Volupté Shine, like from their regular line. They're pretty much like the same color. I didn't realize that when I bought it, that I was gonna get one that was so similar, but I guess you know my preference. But yeah, they're just like where a balm meets lipstick. They're awesome. Then I have one from Victoria Beckham. She calls these her posh lipsticks. This one is in Sway. I like it. I feel like it reminds me of the Gucci one, High Shine. It's really nice, and I don't think there's any fragrance in this. There's definitely fragrance in the Gucci one. These are called the Rouge de Beauté Brilliant. This is the Sally Soft Honey, but I feel like they're so similar. This one even might be more sheer. Yeah, it is. But again, just looks like balmy, like lipstick that has a pretty good amount of shine. It's just that this one is really, really strongly scented. Then I have a lip oil from Clarins. This one is in 08 Strawberry. This is their Lip Comfort Oil. One of my favorites, probably. It's expensive, but it's so good. This one has lasted like a really long time without like taking up too much product. Sometimes with lip oils, I feel like I burn through them pretty quickly. It's a really, really light sheen, or not sheen, tint. High shine, really comfortable, not overly sticky. Like it has some stick to it, but not a lot. Next, I have one of the Dior lip glows. It's called the Color Reviver Balm, and this one is in the shade 012. I don't love this because I feel like it's just a really, really sheer formula. Like too sheer for me. It's nice, but it's like so expensive for being so sheer, I feel like. And when I first bought it, it was so hard. Like the formula was just really stiff. I feel like it's loosened up now. I have one of the Tom Ford balms that just released. This is the Spark Lip Balm in Sunspark. Ooh, it was such a splurge purchase because of the bullet. The sparkles are not actually in the bullet itself. Like you don't get those that translate to the lips. This shade turned out not to be the most flattering on me, but it is a very comfortable balm. It just beautiful sparkles. I'm sure this was limited edition. This one I like the least. This is the Extra Lip Tint from Bobbi Brown. This doesn't have any pigment whatsoever. Like it's supposed to be melon, and it like goes onto my lips and looks like nothingness. And also it's like kind of hard, so it feels like a chapstick almost, and it's expensive for what it is. Plus it's like, I don't know, it feels like plastic. It's called Bare Melon. I do not recommend these whatsoever. And then I have one from Chanel that I absolutely love. This is their Le Rouge Duo Ultra Tenue Gloss. This one is in Soft Rose. So on one side you have the liquid lipstick, which is such a beautiful formula. Like even on its own, because this dries down matte, it still doesn't crack or look too dry on the lips. Like you could get away with just wearing it like this, but it comes with the gloss on the other end. Of course, we've seen these in Drugstore, has them. But then it's like, it's locked on the color and it's this super high shine. It's very, very beautiful. And honestly, I think Chanel does a better job with the matte formulation on these, so much more than the Drugstore, that if you wanted a product like this, I feel like the ones from Chanel are better than like the ones from NYX, and I feel like L'Oreal has them too. Anyway, I think this is a better formula. It's one of the few times where I feel like, look at this, I can't even get it off. It's one of the few times that I feel like luxury did a better job than any drugstore company has done in a product like that. Wow, that was hard to get off. See how red I just made my hand? And then finally, the ones from Pat McGrath. These are called the Mini Opulist Glosses. This one is in Dreamscape. I don't feel like anyone's really come out with products like these either, where they're just so iridescent and the sparkles are so tiny, and this is like such a non-sticky gloss. It's beautiful. It's almost like a lip oil. This one is in Naked Rose. Plus it has like a lot of pigment to it. I don't know. I don't have any glosses like this in my collection. I think Pat, honestly, in terms of like high end again, does a way better job with like this formula. I've had some from NYX that were iridescent. They're not as good as these. And this last purpley one, really unique in my collection. Super beautiful. It's in Lavendering. Just super beautiful, high shine, really smooth formula. So, so good. Well, that was the end of my luxury makeup collection. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, let me know in the comments if you want to see my high-end collection. Probably, I don't know, it might be fun for you to watch, but it's such a huge collection of my makeup, it might kind of be boring, and I don't know if like high-end is kind of its own elite category. But if you guys are interested, do please let me know. That is it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I am out of here, and I hope to catch you all in the next one. Bye.